Thursday, November 21st, 2019. Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Fordham.
Father God, we just love you. We thank you for this day. Just thank you for all your many blessings lay upon each and every one of our lives, Father. We just ask that you be with us tonight as we make the decisions that the decisions we make tonight, Father, please you. We ask all these things in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Little reminder to please silence all phones. If you want to speak on any item on the agenda, fill out the blue slip in the back and bring it up front to Ms. Jessica. Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Kathy.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Abshire?
Here.
Mr. Anderpont?
Here.
Mr. Barris?
Here.
Mr. Brame?
Here.
Mr. Collins was unable to attend this evening. Mr. Farnham?
Here.
Mr. Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Guillory?
Here.
Mr. Landry?
Here.
Mr. Latour?
Here.
Vice President McMillan?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Senegal?
Here.
Mrs. Trimmy was unable to attend this evening, and President Mayo.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy.
You're welcome.
We're going to move item 12 up. Consideration of adopting resolutions approving the following bonds on behalf of Waterworks District Number 5 of Wards 3 and 8. A, approving a general bond resolution authorizing the issues from time to time of water revenue bonds, and B, approving a first supplemental bond resolution authorizing the issuance of $8,500,000 of taxable water revenue bonds. I have a motion by Mr. Brain, Mr. Latour, and a second by Mr. Brain. Motion by Mr. Latour in all bullets, and a second by Mr. Brain. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries.
Why do we move that?
Okay.
Jay needs to get out of here.
Number 4, this presentation will be rescheduled for a later date. We'll move on to number 5, take appropriate action on applications for liquor and beer permits. Mr. Crane.
Madam President, we have 5 applications before you tonight and recommend that they be approved.
Move on 5. Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Barris and a second by Mr. Landry. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 6, consideration of approving payment of all current invoices and advice regarding monthly budget to actual comparisons. I have a motion by Mr. McMillan, second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 7, consideration of approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the Police Bureau dated October 24th, 2019. I have a motion by Mr. Entrepont and a second by Mr. Barris. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 8, consideration of approving the Budget Committee report dated November 21st, 2019. Mr. Brain.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Budget Committee met today at 4 p.m., November 21st. The committee recommended approval of the following items from the parish gaming funds. Ward 2, $70,000, Community Center and Playground District Number 7 of Ward 2. Ward 2, $13,375, Ward 2, Fire Protection District Number 1. Ward 4, District 13, $7,500, Human Services Department. Ward 4, $24,000, $12,000 from Ward 4, and $12,000 from Ward 4, District 13. Waterworks District Number 11 of Wards 4 and 7. Ward 4, $15,100, West Calcasieu Airport, Southland Field. Ward 4, District 15, $8,050, Gravity Drainage District Number 5 of Ward 4. Ward 5, $43,460, Ward 5 Fire Protection District Number 1. Ward 6, $50,000, Ward 6 Fire Protection District Number 1. Ward 6, $90,000, Community Center and Playground District Number 1 of Ward 6. Ward 8, $3,700, Ward 8, Fire Protection District Number 1. The committee also received a presentation of the proposed 2020 budget, police jury budget from Parish Administrator Brian Beam. The proposed police jury budget for 2020 is $258.5 million, which is a 5.9 increase from 2019 budget of $244 million. 74% of the increase is due to capital projects such as road and bridge improvements, construction and new building facilities, drainage, and other important investments. The operating portion of the budget is a 4.9 increase over the current year, which is modest, especially in a growth environment. Property taxes are projected to increase 8.7% in 2020, and sales tax revenues are anticipated to decrease by 8.0%. The staff is anticipating the gaming revenues levels may decrease by 2.3% in 2020. The next Budget Committee meeting is scheduled for Thursday, December 5th at 5 p.m. for the propose of holding a public hearing to receive public comment or input on the proposed 2020 budget. The proposed budget is now available on our website, and that is the end of my report.
Move to accept.
Madam
To
President.
accept report by Mr. Abshire, second by Mr. Porter. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 9.
Move on 9.
Consideration of adopting the ordinance
Second.
approving the
To
following
discuss.
rezoning application. 5,000 block of Highway 3059 in Ward 3, rezoned from agriculture to general commercial to allow commercial development. The Planning and Zoning Board met and voted unanimously to recommend that the request be granted with the following conditions. I have a motion by Mr. Guidry and a second by Mr. Guillory. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Guillory.
Have they talked to Mr. Collins on this, on where he's at and everything? No.
Mr. Giller, I haven't spoken to Mr. Collins regarding this. He's not called me indicating any, objection to it.
Okay, all right.
Know what?
Scott.
Yeah, I've had a few phone calls. A lot of people are just worried that there's going to end up with a strip club in there since they've had this. Apparently, I don't know if it's true or not. This gentleman might own one or whatever. So if we could, I would like to put a motion that no lounges be allowed in this as a stipulation. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Mr. Scott, no lounges, and a second by Mr. Farnum. Is the applicant here?
Yeah, he's here.
Yes, the applicant.
Please come forward. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is John LaRocca, and my address is 709 10th Street, Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Anybody have any questions?
Mr. LaRocca, do you have any interest in putting a lounge in this facility?
When I applied for this, the parish notified me or let me know that there could not ever be a bar or liquor license on that corner.
Well, that's not what the staff told me. They said if I don't put a stipulation in there that they could put a lounge in there. Correct or not correct, Mr. Crane?
Yes, sir. Actually, if you zone it to C2, then lounges are permitted in that zoning district. There are some other C2 zoning properties on the east side of this and on the west side that were recently approved. And there was no stipulation indicated on those particular properties for no lounges. Obviously, we have a requirement, a distance requirement from residential properties. So it just depends on where the buildings are located on the site in relationship to if there's any residential property.
So, Mr. LaRocca, would you be all right with the stipulations saying no lounges? If you ever want one, you just come back and ask. Would that be all right with you for
Yes,
now?
sir. No, no problem, sir.
So he doesn't have a problem with that if the jury doesn't. Thank you, Mr. President.
Motion?
We need a motion on the whole thing.
Put that in your motion?
That's fine with me.
I think I changed my mind.
With stipulation.
Have that for
Do we need to
number
do
nine.
an amendment
Oh, it is
approval
number
for
nine.
that?
They just need to have a motion to add a
Okay,
stipulation.
we have a motion to add no lounge. We're gonna take a vote,
Got Brian.
As a stipulation.
As a stipulation.
stipulation. Okay,
You had a second?
and a second by Mr. Porter. Okay, any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries.
Go back to the original motion and do this one.
The original motion was to,
The original motion was to approve.
okay, to approve.
The motion to approve with stipulation.
Can they have a motion to approve
moved.
with stipulation?
We have a
From-
second by.
Have a motion by Mr. Gidry to approve with stipulation, and a second by Mr. Guillory. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Number 10, consideration of adopting an ordinance approving the following rezoning applications. 1665 Marlin Road in Ward 1. The Planning and Zoning Board met and voted unanimously to recommend that the request be granted with the following conditions. I need a motion and a second.
Motion?
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Senegal and a second by Mr. Guillory. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 11, consideration of
11,
adopting
I'll vote.
resolutions
Second.
approving the following agreements related to the State of Louisiana Watershed Initiative. Mr. Alberta Gallant.
Motion by Mr. Scott and a second.
Have a motion by Mr. Scott and a second by Mr. Guillory. Mr. Alberto, Mr. Gallant.
Okay, I was asked to come up and just kind of give an overview of this because it is a complicated agenda item with an agreement with a whole lot of parishes, and I want to kind of give a background on that, but I'll be brief. This is related to the Louisiana Watershed Initiative that the state has put together, which is related to the 2016 floods. It involves a lot of entities, involves DOTD, Louisiana Administration, CPRA, Wildlife and Fisheries, and the goal is to try to be proactive instead of reactive, and you'll notice some of these themes are very common to this jury who has done some of these things here locally, and so you see that the police jury is very well on track. The reason that we've come together is that there's $1.2 billion of flood mitigation on the line, and in order to get some of those funding, it's mandatory to form regional steering committees. What that means is that that the state has designated regions, 8 regions within the state that are watershed-based, not political boundary-based, in order so that it takes some of the politics out, but it's able to have these regions make watershed-based decisions in terms of projects, in terms of policy making, in terms of getting together and working in terms of one cohesive unit. The Calcasieu Parish Police Jury will serve as the fiscal agent for Region 4, which consists of 9 parishes, which are included in that agreement. We also have a portion of Calcasieu that is in Region 5, which will be led by the Acadiana Planning Commission. What we are tasked with doing is creating a regional steering committee that will guide all activities that come through the parish as a fiscal agent in Region 4. So essentially what this agenda item does is it creates the regional steering committee right there at the bottom with 1 representative from each of the 9 parishes and also 1 representative from the Coshada tribe of Louisiana, which is also in Region 4. Though they will all serve on a regional steering committee who will serve as an advisory group to the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, who will apply for funding for projects throughout the region. Again, regardless of political boundaries, it's watershed based, and that will kind of get us on board and on track with in order to receive those and apply for and receive those funding. And it's very important to get ahead of things. Without this coordination with these other parishes, we're not going to be able to get some of these projects that other states are able, or other parishes are able to get. And we have to compete with Baton Rouge and Lafayette and New Orleans. So this is a good way for us to be a cohesive unit when we apply at the state level. And that is just an overview of what that does. But a lot of work has gone into getting this done. So if I'll take any questions. If not,
Good job.
Bureaus have any questions? Any answers? Any questions? Any discussion?
Question.
I do have a
Mr.
question.
Landry?
They pull the map back up. I'm assuming is that Bell City down there in Hayes area?
it's the Lacassine watershed that is in Region 5.
That's in 5.
Mhm.
So exactly how is, I mean, obviously, if y'all are the fiscal agent, we will probably be very much in tune with what's going on in Calcasieu Parish and all of that, but how are we going to be informed on what's going on in that area of the parish for Bell City and Hayes?
That's a good question.
I mean,
and
is somebody from Calcasieu going to be a member of that commission?
Yes. So I think item C under that agenda item is for Region 5. We will have a representative on the Region 5 Regional Steering Committee on behalf of Calcasieu.
That'll be a juror, or will that be a staff member, or exactly how's that going to work?
Because this Regional Steering Committee is designed to last for a total of 1 year, it's very technical. We would recommend that a staff person be appointed to that group, and then later on down the line, it might be an appointment that may be a little bit more of a regional partner.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a small area, but I just wanted to make sure we would be represented
And
there.
the idea is that equal representation per parish, regardless of the size that you might have in the region, in order to create that parity and trust among those parishes.
Thank you, Alberta.
Any other discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. We did item 12. Number 13, consideration of adopting resolutions approving the following items related to the Calcasieu Parish
13
Police
all
Jury
bullets.
Section 125 Flexible Benefit Plan. A, approving an updated list of participating employers, special service districts for the cafeteria plan to be effective January 1st of 2020. And B, approving adoption agreements between the police jury and special service districts allowing for participation by the districts. I have a motion by Mr. McMillan on all bullets and a second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 14, consideration of
Move to
adopting a
adopt.
resolution approving an active sale agreement for the Niblets Bluff
Second.
Road Bridge Replacement and Realignment Project in Ward 7. I have a motion by Mr. Fordham and a second by Mr. Brain. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries. Number 15, consideration of adopting a
15.
resolution accepting Mercantile Road North Bridge and South Bridge Replacement Project as substantially complete. I have a motion by Mr. Abshire, second by Mr. Underpont. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries.
Move to
I need a
adjourn.
motion. I have a motion by Mr. Underpont and a second by Mr. Abshire. to adjourn.